Hello everyone, in this video we'll look into IAM enumeration inside AWS. It's gonna be my first AWS video, so we'll just start working through it and try different challenges using Cloud Goat and maybe some lab platforms in the future. We'll see how it's gonna go, and we'll show you some AWS Pentesting and we'll see how it goes. Alright, let's dive in. So for this video, I've set up an account that I'll use called test in my own AWS environment. And we'll just look into enumerating, and I'm gonna show just the process for IAM at this point, and in the future videos we'll look into resources and other things. So essentially the process is very simple. For AWS, let's put IAM here, IAM enumeration. So we first want to know what user we are, then all other users, then we want to get user policies and inline user policies. These can be attached to user in various ways, and it's basically, if you know what policy is in the AWS, you can just Google it, but essentially it gives you certain permissions. It's basically a document that outlines what you can do and what you cannot do. It can have both allow and deny statements. Next one is similar. You want to know what groups your user belongs to, and then again you want to enumerate policies for those groups. They're also like attached group policies and inline group policies. Both also give you permissions. Very similar to on-prem stuff. You either give permissions directly to a user, which is not as common, or you give it to a group and you just assign the user to a group, which is kind of what it is. And last one, there's a concept of roles in AWS. Essentially, it's like a just-in-time access, think of it that way. You assume a role that might have higher permissions, and those roles can also have policies attached to them that give them extra permissions. Essentially, that's kind of how it works. So here I have already set up the environment. We have a basic user test we'll enumerate to see what they have. So first, as per this document, we want to get our user. The easiest way to do this is using this command, AWS STS get-caller identity. This just through AWS CLI. And signed in as a different user, called Artello. It's just to make it easier because it has all the permissions, but we're gonna enumerate another user called test. So this is kind of our user, so we know who we are. And next we can get another command to get a better understanding of who our user is. So here we're gonna do the command get-user, and we need to specify the username of the test. And this essentially just gives us the user we want to enumerate. Like if I was signed in as test, it would be test, but we can also do it for our tele user. And I give you some tags as well, in case they're available. Sometimes tags can be useful as they can give you some more information about who user is, what his role is, and etc. Alright, so this is kind of the first step, basically get our user. Oh, we can also list all users. List users. You can see I have only two because this test AWS environment, but usually in production you would have more. And you can just see all the users you could potentially escalate to. Alright, let's move on to the next part. There's gonna be enumerating user policies and line user policies. Again, here we'll focus on user test. So let's first enumerate policies attached directly to the user. For this we do AWS IAM attached user policies, and we need to specify the username. We just test in our example, and we can see we have an attached policy that gives us read-only access to basically everything. We can see exactly what this policy does by running this command. First, you need to get the policy version. Oh, sorry, it's policy IAM. You'll messing this up, it also needs an ID. Usually it's v1. And we can just see all the permissions this policy gives. There could be multiple versions attached, but we'll probably cover it in the future videos, but just now we need to specify the version of the policy. You can also list versions. You can do it like this. Need to remove this part. Here essentially, because AWS managed policies created by AWS, it has lots of versions. But if it's a custom one, usually it has a couple of versions and you can enumerate them all and you can list different versions. For example, so v1 you can list v182. Yes. Not list. Oh, get. Sorry. This AWS commands can get tricky ones sometimes, but yeah, you can see this one's gonna be a bit different. So this is for attached user policies. Commands are a bit more complicated, but they're also inline policies. Can be attached to a user. So for this, we just do list dash user policies. And specify the username of test. Very similar to the previous command, it's just different type of policy that can be attached directly to the user. And again, here we can get dash user policy. Specify username, and we specify policy name. And we can see all the permissions it gives. Essentially, it allows you to describe regions for EC2 instances. Not very useful in this case, but you get the idea. So this was step 2, get user policies and line user policies, so you could see what permissions the user has. And you can enumerate it this way. So next part is enumerating the groups. So first, you do AWS IAM list dash groups. This is gonna give you all the groups. And there's another command, list dash groups for a user. And we specify the username of test. And it's gonna give us the groups a specific user is a part of. So we can see our test user is part of group name test, which is convenient. Now we can list the policies for the groups. So now we know our user test is part of this group. So he's gonna inherit, he or she, this user, is gonna inherit the permissions from this group. So what we wanna do is wanna list the policies for this group, policies. Policies, and specify the group name, test. And we can see there's a test group inline policy, which we can enumerate. Policy. And we get the policy document. Looks like this policy attached to this group allows us to list all S3 buckets. It's really good. So the next step is to look at attached group policies, which is again similar as with the user policies. You have inline policies and you have attached managed policies. So now we're gonna list the other type. and specify the group name test. So yeah, it was very similar command. Instead of list group policies, we specify list attach group policies. And we can see there's IAM read-only access that's attached to the scope. And again, we can list it in a similar way. I forgot IAM, attach group. Specify policy. Oh, sorry, it's get policy version. And version ID, the v1. And again, we can list all the permissions, essentially v1 load list and get an every resource for the IAM action. So the last one we have to cover is roles. As I mentioned, also just something that gives you temporarily access, that you can assume. Essentially, you can list all the roles by this command. By the way, all the commands are going to be in the description of this video, so you can just create a quick cheat sheet if you want, and you can script this. There are also tools you can use to automate this, such as PuckU, but those tend to be a little bit noisier, and it's good to understand what they're doing behind the scenes, so you can do it manually. Like, as you can see, it's not too many commands. It does seem like a lot, but you get used to it. So you can see there are a bunch of default roles. They're created by AWS. But these roles also have policies attached to them, so we can do it all the way, I think. Stalls. And subject queue syntax, so we get roles, name arm. It's just to minimize the output. So these are all the roles we have, just the beta command. And to list all policies, we can run the following command. And we specify role name. Let's do instance role, for example. And looks like that one doesn't have any policies. We can also check for attached role policies. And we can see that this one has some attached role policies that are attached directly to it. And we can enumerate them pretty much the same way as before. AWS IAM get dash policy version, and we'll specify the policy arm. It's very similar for every resource. Like, you can see how repetitive it gets, so it's quite nice to automate these things. Version yields to v1, and we can see that allows you some CloudWatch action, EC2 describe, who's logs, and all that. So again, to recap, for IAM enumeration, we want to get our user to understand who we are. Then we want to try to get all users. Again, it all depends on the permissions your user has. Like what you can enumerate. Sometimes some of this are not available, but just like the steps you should follow. Try to get all users, then try to get user policies and inline user policies. Then look into groups, and then look at the group policies and line group policies, and then look into roles finally. So that's all when it comes to IAM. In the future videos, I'll look into how I can enumerate permissions for resources. If, for example, we don't have rights to enumerate any of that, but usually you are given permissions for some kind of resource, because otherwise why would AWS account exist? So we'll go over that and see how we can enumerate it blindly. And alright, that is it. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.